Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
The Heed the Call podcast. We'll hang up and listen.
We will. We will hang up and listen. Or you will. You being the listener. Because this is our, it's a new tradition. Call-in show. Here on Heed the Call. Heed in that call. Dan Hansis, Connor Orr. Connor, Mark, as we know, who knows? He set sail late last week. If indeed the goal to get to the East Coast was to go around, as he calls, go down south and then curl around and then get into, as he calls it, the Gulf of America, and then duck around Florida, hook around Florida, give a little wave to Cuba, and then come up the eastern seaboard to get to New Hampshire. If that's indeed what's happening, I hope everything's okay.
In sailing parlance, we call that circumnavigation, Dan. He's circumnavigating troubled waters, at least to him. Politically, maybe.
I don't think that at all.
Yes, this is going to be a fun episode because you and me, Con, are doing an episode together.
Well, that's your opinion.
I don't know how many of these we've done, but it's time, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. How about you?
Me too. We have long talked about our love for what we're about to get into at some juncture in the show, and how it's a very special part of both of our lives. And I do think that this is the one show combo that has yet to exist. I know, even dating back to like 2015, 2016, there were weird nights where I would do Sunday night shows with just Mark. And so I don't think we have actually ever just done a show together. So
it's time. It's time. I'm really excited. It's been a pleasure, Connor, to do all these shows with you. We started August 10th. We did our first, or was it August 12th? August 12th, we did our first show of Heed the Call, and you were on that program, and here we are now. This will be our last show before we take our summer break. We're going to take a few weeks off and, do some family time and let the during the slow time of the NFL news cycle get caught up with the life side of things, and then we'll be back when training camp kicks off. So a nice way to end it. And what I say is a tradition. I feel like, let's bring in the gravedigger. Justin, I feel like will be a good annual tradition of last show of the season finale, as it were, to get involved with the audience. And the audience really, really, really stepped up when we put the prompt out for the voicemails, didn't they?
Absolutely. I love the listener response to that. We got over 100, close to 150 voicemails, which obviously means we won't be able to play all of them. But thank you to everyone who called and left a message. If you are wondering whether or not we will play it, just know that if it was over a minute, it probably not. Maybe, but probably not. But we really appreciate all you guys. Shout out to Drew, the Titans fan, who called just to say hi to me, and then he listens to the Titans podcast, and we met at the live show in LA. Your voicemail didn't make the cut, but I wanted to give you this acknowledgement.
Oh, that's nice. What a moment. What a moment. And just so everybody knows, because it really was, it was nice. It was nice to get that level of feedback to the point where when I was in Texas and I had my Apple Watch on and I was getting notifications every time we got a voicemail, it killed the battery of my Apple Watch because you guys had sent so many messages. And honestly, I do think that's just a sign of the show and how the success we've been able to have in a short amount of time with the with some things stacked against us when we started, but the one thing that we always had in our back pocket was you guys and girls, and we appreciate you so much. So this is kind of a way to interface with the audience and enjoy kind of a celebration of a great year or first season together. Now, before we do that, though, Conman, some actual news went down Monday morning. Let's get into it. It was, in fact, a mega trade. Okay, that's a little strong. But it was a big trade, a type of trade that you never see right as the calendar is turning over to July. The Miami Dolphins traded 3-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsey. We knew that was coming. We knew Ramsey was going to get moved. Where he was going to get moved. There were talks of the Rams, him returning to Los Angeles. I had thrown out the possibility of him going to the Packers, who are very secondary poor right now. But no, where he actually goes is to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith coming off a career year in Miami to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for 3-time All-Pro safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, who, by the way, was drafted once upon a time by the Miami Dolphins in the first round. Jalen Ramsey, of course, also a former first-round pick who's headed to Canton. So it is Ramsey and Smith. And for Minkah Fitzpatrick, there's a pick swap involved here as well. 2027 7th-round pick to the Steelers. 2027 5th-round pick going to Miami. So we'll start here, Connor. Just really, I was surprised by the depth of the trade because I know that Jalen Ramsey is a huge star. I know that he's a Hall of Fame level player. I also thought because of his salary, because of his age, because of the lack of leverage that the Dolphins have, that they wouldn't be able to fetch anything that would be impressive as a return. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is a nice return.
Minkah Fitzpatrick's a nice return, but I would love to know what Mike Tomlin's thought process is here. And I'm not saying it's incorrect, but he wants to evolve the defense somehow. And
you know I'm a degenerate.
But I think that I talked to Mike actually about this last year. The influence that Brian Flores had in that brief kind of rehab year that Flores had after Miami that he spent in Pittsburgh as the linebackers coach, I wonder if that rubbed off in Tomlin in any way, shape, or form, because you get Ramsey, who might be able to, in his golden years, play safety or some sort of a hybrid safety corner position. He's still an ass kicker physically, so I think he fits in with the Steelers, but in what way is Tomlin trying to evolve this defense? What did he see last year that he didn't like? And why does Ramsey represent kind of a market upgrade? Fitzpatrick did fall off last year. There's no doubt about that. And so I wonder if this is, God, just another piece of them just leaning all in on this 2025 season.
Yeah, you look at the depth charts here, because Fitzpatrick, he fits in, he'll slot in very well with Miami, who added some safeties in the offseason. Let's see who they had. Yeah, they lost Javon Holland in free agency, the Dolphins, and then they went and they got Ashton Davis, who was just a guy with the Jets. They got Ifeatu Melifonwu from the, did I get that right? From the Lions, but those are both cheap contracts. So Fitzpatrick, there he goes. He's just going to slide right into that. He's going to slide right back into the back end of that Miami defense. On the Pittsburgh side of things, yeah, they have Joey Porter Jr., who's, obviously a rock there on one side. They got Darius Slay Jr. So, yeah, is Ramsey now becoming something of a nickel guy, a safety guy? How does he adapt to a role like that? He played mostly on the outside last year, Connor. But he's also, yes, he's a great player, and great players like Jalen Ramsey do find a way if they have something left in the tank. So I get that part of it. The other part of it was Jonnu Smith, who is coming off a career year. I think it was 88 catches, close to 900 yards. But the Dolphins deemed him to be someone that they did not want to pay, so they offload his contract. And I think the other surprising part of it is the financials here, Connor, because the general thought, I think, was that the Dolphins, part of the reason me and a lot of other people weren't expecting them to get much in return for Ramsey is that you were going to have to offload a very big contract this season. And you would think that maybe they'd have to eat some of that to facilitate. No, not only did the Steelers take on Ramsey's contract, they tacked on a little money on top. And Jonnu Smith is making over $10 million for the money that they gave him a sweetener here. So the Steelers had the cap space. It fits into a greater hole for the Steelers right now, which is they are going obviously all in right now with Aaron Rodgers. Whether it works or not remains to be seen. But yeah, I did not see this type of trade coming. So it's fun. I like when players go for players, all pros go for all pros. And of course, Arthur Smith, Jonnu Smith have that connection as well. Third time they've played together and coached together. So I like it. It's a fun trade.
I like that slogan, Steelers 2025, greater whole. And you just have a picture of Rodgers, his face there. But you're so very quickly, the Art Smith, Jonnu Smith connection. There are certain coaches who, as they travel throughout the league, offensive coaches who just have to have this guy, and it's one guy. And for example, Matt LaFleur for years was Mercedes Lewis, right? And it's like, why do they keep re-signing this 38-year-old tight end? And it's like, because he's the guy that makes everything else I do so much easier. Jonnu Smith is that player for Art Smith, and I do think it helps unlock a lot of that offense. But curious, at this time, Pittsburgh taking on a lot of contract, tacking on years to contracts, spending money, but they still have some financial stuff that they got to take care of. And so I wonder how that's being received. It's a very interesting time here in Pittsburgh. How do they view this window of time, and are they willing to sacrifice making some other people unhappy by spending a lot of cash right now?
You said here in Pittsburgh. Are you in Pittsburgh right now? It looks like you're in New Jersey. I thought you did.
Shit.
Is there something we need to know? Are you a coal miner on the west side of Pennsylvania now?
How messed up would that be if I just had a compulsive lying problem and pretended I was in New Jersey for the last 15 years?
It happened on our show. Our producer picked up and moved to Texas over a matter of weeks. So like these things are known to happen on the program. And but in this case, you're still in New Jersey, you're saying?
As far as I know, yes.
One other side of this. So like I said, Smith, the Dolphins, had a tough year last year overall, but he was a really, really productive tight end. So that's why I like the trade. I kind of like the trade for both sides, but I really like the trade for the Steelers because I think Smith could be very good in that offense, and I guess you're going to play a lot of two tight ends with Freiermuth there as well. I think Darnell Washington's there as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder on the Dolphins side and on the McDaniel side, if Jalen Waddle and Tyreek having kind of relatively down years, how much that played into them being like, we got to clean up this and centralize and focus up this offense. And maybe you don't put it on Tua because he was productive with the tight end, but maybe if we're funneling more towards our two superstar wide receivers that we pay an absurd amount of money to, maybe the offense will be better off and we're just going to be a more streamlined operation. Those guys got to stay healthy, of course, for this to work.
I do wonder also if, because there are reports now that the Dolphins are maybe looking to trade for a tight end or to inherit the overage after cut down day, if some veterans on the block. I think that there are just tight ends that might fit a little bit better in Mike McDaniel's offense, whereas Jonnu is a little bit more of an Art Smith guy, whereas McDaniel maybe wants someone who's going to be a little bit more physical, but then can get off blocks and get to the second level. Is that something that they're looking for as they try to, because they have to shapeshift this offense in some way, shape, or form. You can't go back into this trying to run another track and field meet in 2025.
All right. And then one other piece of this, and this popped up right before we started recording. And Justin, if you want to jump in here into the convo, because Justin, I could tell, was a little dismissive of the report, and I get why, because, it seems like the Steelers are going all in with Rodgers here. When has that ever gone wrong? So why would you do anything to take away from your veteran core? But there is this report that landed right as we started over at ESPN. In recent weeks, this is per Adam Schefter, multiple teams have been discussing whether they can trade for TJ Watt, who skipped the team's most recent minicamp. The Steelers haven't shown any willingness to deal Watt so far. That's an important part of this sentence. But he's unhappy with his contractual situation, and sources believe, according to Schefter, outside team interest is likely to increase given Monday's trade of Ramsey and Smith for Fitzpatrick. The Steelers have been adamant they want Watt to finish his career in Pittsburgh. The only reason, Justin, I that I wonder, just it's worth talking about, is like, why would this be floated out there at all? Like, is it perhaps a smoke signal that the Steelers are having a bit of a weird offseason, and one that's a little unlike them in terms of their team history, if they are looking to do something big here, and maybe, just maybe, for instance, let's throw it out there, they go and they could trade TJ Watt in his prime years, get a first-round pick, and then they're waiting in the wings is your artillery after this one-and-done Aaron Rodgers season. Are they trying to balance the present and the future at the same time, potentially, or is this just a waste of time?
To me, it feels like I have to think about who benefits from this information being out there. Like TJ Watt and his representation, if they really want to get a deal done, could float this idea, see what other teams out there are willing to pay him, and then take that information to Pittsburgh and say, look, Team X would pay our guy $35 million a year. Why won't you do it? If you're not going to do it, trade him. But for the Steelers, they have 1 year with Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers said this is he's pretty sure this is his final year, right? Signed a 1-year contract. They're trying to win a Super Bowl this year while they have what they believe to be the best possible roster they can build, right? Why would you get rid of a all-pro level game wrecker who was their closer and the reason that they were able to be above 500 again under Tomlin, because the way he can close games? You're not moving him in a year where you're trying to win the Super Bowl unless you're not really trying to win the Super Bowl and you're looking ahead to the future, in which case you wouldn't have gone out and signed Aaron Rodgers. So to me, I think this must be coming from an agent somewhere, either of another team who would love to add TJ Watt, because all 31 teams would love to add him, or because they're trying to get this wrapped up and get him paid.
I think you're absolutely right, Justin. And the thing is, I view reports like this as sort of a societal intelligence test. It's like, how many times are we going to fall for like the Ravens might not sign Lamar Jackson, and then it gets done. It's like, is Micah Parsons going to go somewhere? And then he doesn't. And it's like premium players at premium positions don't really change hands at all. It's like going on a roller coaster. You know you're not going to die. That's kind of one of the boring parts of it, right? And you know that you're going to land safely at the end. And that's what these off-season kind of little floaty balloon party storylines are. It's just like, we know where this is going to end on July 23rd at 9:31 p.m. or a.m. Schefter's going to be like, TJ Watt's in there signing a deal, never in doubt.
Right. And just like why we were so annoyed, me specifically, but I think everyone was exhausted by the Aaron Rodgers dance, because we all knew where that was going to head as well. Last thing before we take a break and then dive into the...
Wait, before you move off this story, I do want to just acknowledge the bizarre reporting nature around it, because it was very aggravating to me.
Okay.
The way that the trickle out of information where it's like,
Yes.
oh, guess what? Splash, Jalen Ramsey's being traded. And then we're all refreshing Twitter constantly like, what's he being traded for? What's the compensation? And it's like, oh, by the way, Minkah Fitzpatrick is the compensation. And Schefter even tweets the rare player-for-player trade. And then 20 minutes later, it's like, oh, by the way, Jonnu Smith is being swapped for a late-round pick as well. And it's like, wait, what the hell's going on? What is the compensation here? And in my opinion, this was a prime example of reporters rushing to be first to break a story, not getting every piece of information, and the result is extremely sloppy, and everyone's tweeting different things at the same time, and it's like, what the hell? Like, what even was today in terms of breaking news? It was horrible.
You know what you got dinged by? And credit to you, because you're online and you're preparing for today's show. I had a very 2008 internet morning where my kids are out of school. We're back, obviously, from Texas. My wife went back to work. My kids are home from school for the summer. So I was doing this and doing that, doing some house stuff, because you just got to take care of a few things when you're out of town. And then I learned from my producer, we also got to talk about the trade. And then I just hit ESPN.com. Like I was like, like Obama just got elected for the first time, and there it was. Oh, there's the trade, and there's the terms, and but yes, like that living online experience, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And also, then I was like, do we need? Because you also said this, because Justin was all fired up, kind we get a video tweet from Rap Sheet from, I guess, his vacation, his tropical luxury vacation in Mexico somewhere, just standing in front of some ancient ruins and then just dictating the terms of the trade, which we already knew from online. Don't need it. Like, Ian, you don't need to do it. You're cool. Go enjoy your family. I said to Sessler. Sessler's texting me this morning about work stuff. I'm like, Mark, just chill. Enjoy your family. We don't need you right now. We're good.
Going through a version of that over here where my son, we went to the movies and we saw a preview for the new Superman movie that's coming out July 11th.
Oh, yeah. I'm in.
And he has talked about it literally 8 times a day, every day since March, 2nd or whatever, when we went to go see the movie. And then it just so happens that this story that I've been chasing, this guy that, listen, I can talk to you on July 11th, the day that we bought the movie tickets for. And I was just like, it's not possible because this is like, it's like that thing that you have to be locked in for. And I just don't want to be thinking about anything else. And so it's like, sometimes you got to just move the NFL out of your whole purview, it's healthy. You got to just push it away,
That's healthy. That's healthy. Last thing before we move on. AFC North, after all these moves by the Pittsburgh Steelers, all these veterans they've added, former All-Pros, former MVPs, former Defensive Players of the Year, I still got them third best in the division. How about you?
I think if Ramsey is, because I was going to make this point earlier, I think sometimes that positional switch does invigorate a player late in his career if he's doing a hybrid safety corner thing. A lot like people thought Darrelle Revis should have done before he just faded into oblivion as a player. And maybe that would have kept his career alive a little bit longer. If that works, there's probably a way that you could clip the Bengals. I mean, I have them and the Bengals both as kind of 1B and sort of jostling together, but it's so Rodgers dependent right now.
Yeah. And before Steelers fans come after me, I also think this is a division that could send 3 teams to the playoffs. But
sure.
So I think there is an outcome where all 3 of these teams have winning records and all have, potentially double-digit records. But like last year, for instance, Ravens had 12 wins, Steelers had 10, Bengals had 9. I kind of see it. Maybe flip the bottom 2 teams there. I kind of see that's how the AFC North shakes out right now. But so much can change. And yes, so much rides on the quarterbacks in that division and how they lead the way. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we open up the phone lines. Ooh, I like that.
I am experiencing enjoyment.
Hey, heed the call. The podcast is going on vacation, but the Patreon does not take a break. Patreon.com/heed the call has new content throughout July. You can get the return of the Throwback Podcast with me and my bosom buddy, Bob Castrone. We do a look at the first ever TRL MTV Countdown with Carson Daly. It's wild stuff, and it's in video format for the first time. Check that out. Also, Rolling Thunder will roll out another episode. The Silver Horses newsletter from Mark just dropped another edition. The Friday Fun Show will continue to roll out new episodes. And by the way, it came from the subreddit, study of fan culture and topics around Heed the Call. That is coming up, another edition in just a couple days. So make sure you check out all this content, because while Heed the Call is dark, the Patreon, the light is turned on and it's bright, baby. Calling all hedonists.
Come on!
Yes. That is, for people that are not aware, that is the opening theme song of Mike and the Mad Dog, which is I would say the pinnacle of sports talk radio, certainly in our formative years. And really, when you look at now the landscape of today, so much of it was shaped by what Mike and the Mad Dog did in the New York market from, I think it was about 88 or so, 89 till 2008 when they went their separate ways. And before we get to the callers here for our show, Connor, I just want to talk about it for a couple of minutes because I was like I said, I was in Texas, and my wife's friend had come to visit from Dallas, Justin, and she was just asking me about my career and how I ended up where I was and how I got into, broadcasting and all that. And I said how I started, when I was in high school, college, early out of college. Like, my only idea was I wanted to be a sports reporter or a columnist or this or that. Like so many people my age, like reading Bill Simmons on Page 2 for ESPN.com, blew my mind as wait, you could actually write with humor and you could write with some level of reverence, and that kind of opened doors to me in terms of how I wanted to approach my career. But deep down, everything I was doing leading up to when we started Debate Club and then around the NFL and now here at Heed the Call, so much of it was born out of listening to WFAN as a teenager. So much listening to WFAN. I would listen to it in the afternoon, of course, Mike and Chris and Mad Dog, and then I would listen to it late at night. I'd go to sleep to it, to the Schmoozer or Joe Beningo wailing about another Jets miserable loss on a Sunday evening, and all those hours. I thought I was just a sports fan, but I was actually, I think, looking back on it, it was training for where I ended up in my career, what I really wanted to do. Yeah. So I have a great amount of fondness. I don't really listen to sports talk radio anymore. I moved away from New York, of course, and it's a different type of thing now, but I have so much love for the format, and I know you do too, Connor.
Yeah. Going back to, I wouldn't say that I did well in high school. I think at the end there, it kind of got a little dicey in terms of, what we were going to end up doing. But from January 2nd or 3rd until probably right up until the Super Bowl, my friend Mark Pagnotti and I 2 or 3 times a week would just walk out of school and go to my house and sit in the basement because it was simulcast, and we would watch Mike and the Mad Dog Super Bowl trivia, and they would dress up and they had the gowns on, and they would have the ridiculously hard Super Bowl questions, and they would say, but Chris used to always answer the phone and say, "What kind of fan are you?" And you had to say what team you liked and all that stuff. But yeah, that was, to me, coming of age in that era of powerhouse newspaper columnist. The dream was always have your little radio show and then have your column, and that was kind of your life. And so just being able to do this, even once, it's it's surreal. It's you get this very tingly feeling and this feeling of appreciation, and being able to kind of pay it back a little bit. So, and then
we've had Russo on multiple times during our Super Bowl shows over at NFL Media, and I remember there was always a bit of bewilderment, why are the guys geeking out about this guy? This is before Russo had his comeback moment with ESPN. Right. It was he was in between. It was post Mike and the Mad Dog. It was when he was on Sirius and doing stuff on MLB Network, and he was just kind of a guy in the landscape. And then ESPN got a hold of him and kind of turned him into more of a national figure. The reason why is because just a huge amount of reverence for the man who was always, Sessler loved Russo. We talked about it all the time. Sessler some of Mark's best favorite memories growing up in the tri-state area was Saturdays with his dad driving, listen to it when Russo would get his own solo spot when he would do Saturday, because that guy was such a workaholic. He would do Monday to Friday, drive time, and then have his own show on Saturday. I don't know what his contract was or how many hours he was expected to fill, but he filled so many. And then Francesa, who I've always loved and adored, and I think people who know me and know that show could see some connection points with Francesa. Like they were just such a great pairing because they were so different, but they were just, it was such a yin and yang to what they did. And so if you like our show, just know like so much of the DNA comes from not just Mike and the Mad Dog, but all those shows on the Fan that we kind of grew up on. So without further ado, let's get into it. And the last part of this is, yes, this is so cool that our audience, it really meant a lot to me this weekend in Texas that I kept on getting those pings on my watch. It's like, shit, like people are responding to our show. Awesome. This is kind of a celebration of the first year of this program, the first season of the program, and a hearty thank you from me and Justin and Mark and Connor and Jordan and Mike and everybody that made year one what it was for our show. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to start crying.
I know.
All right, first call. Here we go.
Hey, guys. This is Nate calling in from South Carolina. First time, long time. I'm curious, in your time covering the league, what has been your favorite NFL storyline that hasn't had anything to do with the actual football being played? Love you guys. I'll hang up and take the answer off there.
That's a good one. Connor, you take this one.
All right. I have one that's going to take me like 5 seconds, and then I'll get into my other one.
Yes, please.
The one was I used to, every year I used to compile political donations that were made by owners during election years. And then I would just make a database, and I would publish the information. And one year, for no reason at all, Jaguars owner Shad Khan donated $1,500 to a failed congressional campaign by American Idol runner-up Clay Aiken, which was just my all-time, because just you're sitting there and you're just combing through the paperwork and you're like, why? And just, you know, did they meet at a party? Did he wish that he beat Ruben Studdard? How did that happen? So I'll just put
the Velvet Teddy Bear, Ruben Studdard. I remember that one.
But by far, my favorite was why no one ate the pizza at the Roger Goodell crisis meeting after the Ray Rice knockout video surfaced. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, the Ray Rice video surfaces, total chaos at 345 Park. Roger Goodell calls an emergency meeting, and Wall Street Journal wrote this TikTok of the hour by hour of them, the NFL trying to respond to this massive crisis. And
just to be clear, Ray Rice knocking out his girlfriend in an elevator. This is about 12 years ago now. After he had already been implicated in domestic violence, but then this was the smoking gun that blew the story into the stratosphere.
Yes. And so the detail in the Wall Street Journal story is that all this pizza gets delivered to the conference room, and everybody is waiting for Goodell's cue to start eating. And Goodell never fucking eats the pizza. And so like 10 boxes of pizza just go completely stale and amorphous in front of all these people. And the reason I like it is because I struggle in those situations a lot. I am always hungry, and I have no social cues when it comes to eating. And like, if we go to like a family share restaurant, it always gets heated because like I'm taking it, like I'm going if you're not going. And so I've always thought about what I would have done and if I would have been the lone employee at 345 Park to eat the goddamn pizza.
That's a good one. Somebody, because you have to, if someone makes the move, you have that moment where just total, like, you know, eyes are on you, and you know you're not the only one that's thinking it. But you also don't know if, in this case, a boss, and in this case, Goodell, is going to say, "What the fuck are you doing?" But then if you, it's kind of like one of those sneaky and social settings in life, like a brave move, because you're kind of doing it not just for yourself, but for everybody. Because the second, if somebody would have gotten a slice there, 10 other people would have done it within the next 5 minutes.
No question.
But nobody did it, which tells you about the tenseness of that situation. Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm always I was at an event the other day for something, and there's this big buffet, and, you know, everyone's talking, and you know that there's going to be so much more talking, but so I just got up and I hit it, and I was just like, oh, like, you know, I'm hungry, and I'm like, dude, there's eggplant rolling teen here. Is no one else going to just start dominating this? So
Yeah, I would say, like, for me, I don't know if this is the context of the question again, but the whole 2015, there's been so many lowlights, obviously, for the Jets during this long postseason drought. But when Geno Smith got his jaw broken by IK Impali, I think his name was, over stiffing this offensive lineman, over a plane ticket,
$600.
Yeah, a plane ticket and a trip to Texas to appear at a camp, and then Geno, I guess, was dismissive of him, and then he as they say, you f*** around and find out, and IK was one of those guys you don't mess around with, and he broke his jaw and knocked Geno out, and that was such a crazy story, and it actually opened the door for Ryan Fitzpatrick to have a really fun and exciting year for the Jets. That's the only winning season they've had during these last 13 years during this drought, even if it fell short of the playoffs. But that was like the craziest not off the field story. And just, I still remember this day. At some point, Geno resurfaced and he posted a photo of himself in his car, like mean mugging, with his like iPhone photo, and his jaw was all swollen up. I think he needed surgery, like to put like a wire in his jaw. And it never played for the Jets again. And he did get his career back on track, but yeah, that was a crazy story.
While we're romanticizing about growing up in New York, that was a heyday for that was back when the Daily News was still the Daily News too, and there was like kind of the headline battles, and
yes,
the New York Post was Jaw in Disorder, which is so good. And then the Daily News went with Deflate Face, which was another one of my favorites. And then, I mean, the coda to this story is that fucking Rex Ryan signs him the next day after the Jets cut.
Right,
IK.
he was then the Bills coach, recently fired by the Jets, and
so
he sent IK Impali. Is that who it was? Something like that. Sent him to midfield when the Jets and Bills played that following season as a captain. Rex was always entertaining.
Amazing.
All right, what do we got? What's next?
Hey, this is Stevie Fresh from the 316, a.k.a. Wichita. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
That was funny.
Connor, should have gone with the Odyssey, not the TNC, but hey, we won't split hairs.
Ooh.
My question, do you think the NFL will expand beyond 32 teams, or are we stuck in this vicious cycle of relocations? Curious to see where you guys take this. Shout out to Justin in Texas, here in the Midwest. Heed the call, boys.
Nice. Is Texas Midwest? Is that? What is Texas?
Texas is its own Texas. Yeah. It's not the South. It's not the Midwest, although it is like Wichita is directly north from where I am. So it's kind of in the same zone that way. But I think Texas is just Texas. It's like it's its own thing.
Well, the only thing that really stuck with me there is that the Dodge Odyssey.
Honda Odyssey.
Is it the Honda Odyssey?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you studied them all, so yes, you know better than me.
Yeah.
The Honda Odyssey is a superior car to the Chrysler Town and Country, which that's now where you got your hackles up. You got Connor. Let's get Connor fired up here.
Okay, so it's a better car, but like my neighbor was selling it to me for like $12,000, so I can't go to him and be like, "Hey, I'd rather that be a Porsche Cayenne that could fit my gigantic family." That's the car that he had that he was going to give to me. It's not like you can go to a restaurant and be like, "Hey, I'd rather you have a whole different menu. This is what's there, and you have to pick what's available."
Right.
I don't know. But we should rewind that thing and see if there's any Honda shit on there.
I was just about to say, let's go up. If you go up, Honda does have two of their models on the used cars to avoid. Now, famously, the TNC is on there year after year. It's a dynasty. But if you look at Honda, Honda just has two models on their list. It's the Civic and the Pilot. The Civic 18 and the Pilot in 17 and 22. The Odyssey, nowhere to be seen. So I would say that our caller probably has the edge on you in this one.
A little bit of haughtiness here. And obviously, I think one of the things to remember after the Princeton Review got exposed, because it's a pay-to-play scheme, I'm sure that Honda is greasing the wheels on this thing, whereas Chrysler is just focused on making reliable family cars. We're all still here. All of us driving that thing every day, hundreds of miles, and we are alive, baby.
Well, except for the people who aren't. but I don't have the data to throw in your face on that, and I don't care to do the research. It sounds sad. All right, next. Oh wait, what was this question? I'm sorry. What?
Do you think the NFL will ever expand beyond 32 teams, or are we stuck in this vicious cycle of relocation?
No.
Yes.
No.
Of course they will.
No, they're not.
More teams means more money, more games, more. Connor, how am I possibly wrong? The NFL will always grow because they that's all they can do at this point. They're a corporation that the only thing they know how to do is to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that it will include eventually more teams.
More teams means vetting other people to get into the country club. It means splitting the pie. It means giving up their positions and seats of power on various committees and perhaps having their voices diluted by new ownership groups or different people. And it takes away what is the beauty of this entire scheme, which is constant leverage against their 32 host cities. Whenever something doesn't go their way, it's like, well, San Antonio looks nice, and then the city shits its pants and gives them a massive tax break and keeps them there. If you keep expanding, you lose that edge. Like at some point,
there's a lot of cities, Connor.
There's a lot of cities, but at some point, like Jerry Jones isn't going to be like, I'm going to move the Cowboys to Asbury Park, New Jersey. Like we're not, at some point you lose your effectiveness
at a certain
here.
point. But right now, we're only talking about if there's multiple cities that have two teams. They've only tapped into ultimately about 30 markets or so at this point.
I would say realistically, I mean, having done this in Madden many times with your expansion franchise mode, I think that we have San Antonio, which is a legitimate football town that did really well during the Alliance of American Football as a host city. And I think that the NFL knows that it could probably put a legitimate franchise there. You could do a second team in Chicago. But after that, we start getting into like the Portlands of the world. And is that, I guess, going back to St. Louis? And
how about a second Chicago team?
That's what.
How about a team based in Boston? How about you look at the college landscape? There's a million teams, and there's billions of dollars that are made by the NCAA.
Right, but are we gonna have you seen an Akron Zips game lately? It's not exactly popping. So.
Agree to disagree on this one.
Okay.
What's the old Cuban line? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. The NFL, it's a bottomless appetite. I know what you're saying, though. You're saying it's not that the NFL is going to have some restraint. It's just going to not strategically be in their best interest. But I think they probably find a way.
God.
Also, the international markets. I know right now they are in the place where they're like, let's just do games everywhere. But it might go to a place of popularity where they're going to be like, well, what if we do 12 teams in Europe? And we just somehow slide that into what we do and make it truly a global game. You see, I can imagine Roger Goodell like all wrinkled up. He's 97 years old and he's floating on an orb somewhere in like a crystal palace. And he's like, finally, it's the Global Football League. You know what I mean? Like I could see it.
And then he just dies.
Then he dies. They immediately saw off his head and put it in a cryogenic chamber so he can continue to lead. All right, next. Well, there's something we couldn't say on the old show. All right, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Austin. I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
Cool.
So my question is, if I were from the future, and the distant future, and I told you that there was a player drafted in the last 5 drafts, so either 2021 or later, or after that, if there was a player drafted in the last 5 drafts that retired as the undisputed GOAT at their position, who would you guess that player is? Love the show. Thanks, guys.
Last 5 years, so 2021.
Okay.
The first name that came to mind was Justin Jefferson, but I don't know if I can do that because, well, he was drafted in 2020, so he's not even capable to be in this conversation. Do you have somebody that comes to mind since 2021?
So I think that there's like a slightly more obvious one, and I can get to that if you want. But I think the one, and it's funny because the Ravens actually just declined his 5th-year option. But someone like Tyler Linderbaum, who is maybe like the best center in the NFL right now, and I think, and here's why I'm going to make like a little bit of a strange case for him.
Sure,
Tyler Linderbaum has a harder job than any center in the NFL because he's blocking for a quarterback where he never knows where the hell that guy is. Their running game is all pulling and running and constant lateral movement. It's so much harder than a lot of other teams and what they ask them to do. Jason Kelce is probably the greatest center of all time right now. And I'm not saying that's not a high bar to clear, but if Linderbaum plays 12, 13 years and wins a pair of titles with Lamar Jackson, which is possible, like let's say the Ravens just get on their heater and they finally get to these games.
Right.
I don't see why. I mean, already through 4 years of his career, 3 Pro Bowls, he's, again, probably the best center in the NFL right now. Why can't we project that out over the course of 10 years?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a very Connor answer. I like it.
Do you want the more obvious one?
Yeah, give me the obvious one.
Puka Nacua, because the volume is there, and if you're with McVay for, let's say he's with the Rams for 10 plus years, McVay is never going to have a rookie quarterback. He's just going to replace Matt Stafford with another banger of a veteran, and Puka's going to keep getting 149, 150 balls. Jerry Rice is a pretty high bar to clear, but you had mentioned Justin Jefferson. Like, if you look, it's just the touchdowns that are the outlier for Jerry Rice. He scored a lot of touchdowns. That's harder for receivers to do in the NFL now. There's just more plays. There's more red zone options than they've had in the past. But I think Nacua is another one of those guys that could just accumulate at such a high volume with McVay over time that maybe he ends up getting there too.
Yeah. He's a gifted player. It would really surprise me if he goes down as an all-time great. I would say let's throw in Brock Bowers.
Okay, nice.
As an option now. And he's got some history on his side. Obviously hit the ground running. He's playing tight end position where who is the undisputed? Is there an undisputed greatest tight end ever? Is that kind of a crown that's there to be taken? Maybe it's Gronk. Maybe it's Travis Kelce. Maybe it's Mike Ditka. I don't know. But Tony Gonzalez stands are getting fired up. But he's just the 4th rookie tight end to be named first team All-Pro. So you factor that in, like that maybe this guy is just getting warmed up. But other than that, I'm trying to think of quarterbacks that came into the league. Obviously, Jaden Daniels set the league on fire last season. But it's a hard. What I think the spirit of the question is: has someone come into the league that you feel like there's this sense that this could be the way you look at Michael Jordan, that type of player, like that type of game changer? And I don't know if I can say that right now.
I'll throw 2 guys out.
Okay.
Aiden Hutchinson, just because he was on an incredible pace last season before the injury and not that deep into his career. But
before that, his first 3 years, he was very good, more than great. I feel like you have to be, if we're talking about the actual greatest ever at his position, I kind of feel like you got to come in as an absolute phenom, like the way Randy Moss came into the league way back in 98.
25 sacks, not this season, but 2026 season, like that would be amazing. It wouldn't necessarily be that
probably not going to happen.
I don't think so either.
For me,
the other one I'll throw out is a rookie, so grain of salt, everything. But Ashton Gentry's like just prospect profile is the amount of production he had in college. That could be an interesting.
We've seen many running backs come in and be hailed as the perfect prospect.
Absolutely,
there wasn't any Titans that you brought up.
Well, Cam Ward obviously is the other one, but
right, Cam Ward.
Oof. Ouch.
Next.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Connor. First time, long time. My name's Noah. I'm currently living in Atlanta from Toronto. I am team agnostic, but a noted ball lover. My question for you guys today would be, not in a cowardly way like the Green Bay Packers did, but if you guys could enact a rule change for the upcoming year, what would it be and why? Thank you. First time, long time. I mentioned that.
Great call, by the way.
Great
like
call.
9 drops in. Yeah.
He hit a lot of beats, a lot of callbacks. Yeah, I would say the one that's just haunted me as a football fan for years is the protection of the quarterback and the late hits, whether it's in the backfield or over the middle, and how fast the game is, and the ability to pick up that flag. I know they've made some progress on that front now, but really button it up and protect the officials from themselves and save these games from, obviously getting to a real bad place. The other one, I guess, Connor, would be, which I think they've now. It took a playoff failure that cost the Bills maybe yet another chance to get to the Super Bowl. But yeah, let's get the microchips in the ball and get proper spotting of the line of scrimmage and the first down marker. Those are two things that came to mind for me.
Two for me would be to add in a penalty for, and this is obviously touches a soft spot on my end, any quarterback that's baiting a defender to hit him as he's trying to go out of bounds should be a personal foul penalty and to be considered for expulsion. I also think that losing, and this might be controversial, but I'm kind of a, what do you call it? What do Supreme Court justices say they are to excuse them being just insane people? I'm a traditionalist, or I'm a constitutionalist. What's the word that I'm looking for? Like you know what I'm talking about? It's
I know, yeah, but I'm not sure.
There's a word, but they're just saying it so they can be an asshole. I think that you should not just lose the ball, you should lose points. If you fumble the ball, the pylon play, if you fumble the ball out of bounds into the end zone, that shouldn't just be change of possession. You should lose 2 points for that. That should be a safety. You should be whacked.
Yeah,
hard.
Kill him. Pragmatist? Would it be that? Pragmatist?
What is it? Fundamentalist? No, that's not good. You don't want to be that. Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
though, right?
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
People are up in arms, are screaming at their listening device because they know and we don't. All right, what's next?
Hello, Dan, Connor. I know you both as men of impeccable music taste, so my question for you is, if you were booking the Super Bowl halftime show and it was just up to you, the show was just for you, obviously other people are watching it, but you get to book your dream musical guest, who would you pick? Who do you think would be put on the best show? Again, this isn't for every single human to enjoy. This is for you, the best show that you can put out. Thank you. I will hang up and take my question off air here. Thank you.
Great question. I'm looking at you because here's the difference between you and I. I think everybody knows what I'm going to say, so I want you to go first. But because you've had yours in a way,
yes,
right? Like you've had it.
I have.
And so what else would you possibly want?
Yeah, Connor's referring to my favorite band ever is U2. They played, obviously, the first Patriots Super Bowl shortly after 9/11, very memorable show, and that was kind of the height of my fandom, and I remember vividly being in an apartment building on Columbus Avenue in Boston, surrounded by Patriots fans, and we had the projector against the sheet, and the Patriots, I think, were winning at halftime, or it was a very close game, and there was just all this energy, and watching that halftime show, and it was very emotional, and great job by the band. So that I couldn't really ask for anything else after that. I don't know, like there's the dad rocker in me would really love to see some type of. It's such a bad idea. It would never be if this is solely what I want.
Right.
Yeah, like it would be something along the lines of some type of garage rock revival, and it's like maybe we get the Strokes back together, and we get White Stripes back together, and we some of those great bands of that era, like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. We just like kind of some of the garage rock turn of the century guys. We put them out there for 13 minutes and just like blow the roof off of the joint. But again, that is not what I think people would enjoy. But as a 45-year-old dad, I would be into that. So let's go garage rock reunion. What a bad idea.
The 11-year-old in me is like, say Janet Jackson. But I think that the honest answer is probably Dead and Company, right? Like Grateful Dead, John Mayer. You would do it in Vegas. You would create like a sphere-like atmosphere, and then you would just kind of roll from there. So
yeah, that's a good one. And the one other one, this one I'm not as hot about, although I'm very excited, as many listeners right now are as well. The Oasis reunion is coming. It's scheduled, I think, to start in a couple of days in England and then work its way to America if the brothers can not kill each other, or like a world war doesn't wipe us all off the map by the end of the summer. But I did like the idea of an Oasis halftime show at the first Super Bowl, like at Wembley Stadium, would have been really cool. But I'm a little cooler because now that's not a reunion element of it anymore. It's not going to, the novelty won't be at the same level, but Oasis at the Super Bowl and at Wembley, which would also bonus points because it would lead to a really pissed off Connor Orr that we would have taken the Super Bowl out of America.
Well, it would lead to a pissed off me that we took the Super Bowl out of America, but this is the kind of thing that would kind of be me getting back at them for taking all the good games, where it's just like, oh, okay, you get like Vikings-Steelers and you feel all pounding your chest in Dublin like you guys are awesome. We took the fucking Oasis reunion. Like, that's ours now. And so I think that
you want your pound of flesh if there's gonna be that type of cultural,
in the war of appropriation, then like no one from England can actually get into that building. It's just full of white insurance executives. Yeah.
And yeah, maybe you even zap the satellite transmission for the 12 minutes. And that now we're really getting even. This is within Connor's twisted world.
Then you just have to listen to a bunch of pharma bros like being like, "Oh, I recorded on my phone. Like I have one of 800 copies of it. You should have seen it." Yeah,
it would put the Heidi Bowl to shame. Like instead of the Oasis reunion, like everyone in England and Ireland and Scotland and everywhere else would get like a rerun of MTV's Celebrity Deathmatch halftime show from 2000, and everybody's like, what? All right, next.
Hello, Heed the Call podcast. Hello, Hedonists. This is Jed Heating from New York. Just wanted to know what you thought the Packers' realistic goal should be for this season. Thanks, man. Love the show, and hopefully Mark's hasn't fallen off that boat yet.
I think he's safe. I think Mark's safe. He took the long way, and we're gonna just pray for him. The question was,
picturing him on a boat.
The question was the Packers' chances. Yeah, I'm a little less bullish on the Packers than I was this time last year, but I also think there's no reason that they couldn't contend in the NFC and also in the NFC North. If you want to look at it from a more glass half full, I know the Detroit Lions, who won the division, went 15-2 with all those injuries, but also like despite all the things that went wrong for the Lions last year, a lot of things went right for the Lions as well to get where they finished up and to win that many games. So the idea of the Lions coming down a little bit and a lot of turnover, coaching staff obviously, and also you have to think about that. And then the Vikings, I think everyone kind of expects the Vikings to come back to earth, and it could be a crash down to earth depending on how the rookie quarterback fares. The Bears are supposed to be better, but who knows? Like, would it shock me if the Bears won 6 or 7 games this year? No, it would not. So the Packers are kind of this team where I think there's less variance to me in their outcomes. I could see them winning between 9 and 12 games. They'll be a good team. Could they be a great team? I'll throw that one to you, Connor. That I'm not sure about.
I don't think so. And I don't think that they're good enough defensively. And we're not just talking about the lack of firepower at corner, but I mean, even the Packers themselves said that they wanted more help as an interior pass rush unit. And you have first round picks everywhere: Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness, all that, but you're still not getting that push that you want inside. I just don't think that they're front to back, maybe the second best team in the division if we're talking generously, and JJ McCarthy doesn't have a great season. So I think 10 wins as presently constructed is great for them. And you just don't poop your pants in the playoffs like you did. I mean, if I remember correctly, that playoff loss to the Eagles, there were like fumbled kickoffs. There was a lot of just disastrous stuff happening for Green Bay in addition to them not playing all that well.
It's funny. Also, I thought Jordan Love didn't lose me, but they paid him like a super duper star, and then I don't think he was quite at that level. I'm looking at his numbers, and he was 5th in QBR, so obviously he wasn't a bad quarterback. But I think if you asked privately around that building, they probably expected more from him last season. So he's going into a big year for him. It's going to be his age 27 season. You expect him to take the next step. Let's see if he does.
Yeah, I don't know. And you're like, what is that receiver room? I mean, there's a lot of great guys or decent guys. I don't know. Well, I just don't know. I don't know what they are right now. And that's a hard thing for me to digest.
Yeah, good is the enemy of great. And I don't know if they, now if Matthew Golden hits the ground running,
sure,
then it gets very interesting all of a sudden. And that would make a big difference. But of course, adding Josh Jacobs there I like that as well. So let's see what happens. All right, let's a little bit of a halftime. We're talking about Mike and the Mad Dog. Here's Francesa solo. I would say in terms of absurd callers, did we get any absurd calls, Justin? Like truly, like crazy, like insane people calls?
Nothing on this level. There was a couple that were a little out there, but I wouldn't classify any of our listeners as absurd, to be honest.
Here's an absurd call that Francesa got several years back now from a caller who asks a question to Big Mike that really really catches him off guard. Enjoy.
Dan in Warwick, what's up, Dan?
It wasn't me.
Hey, Mike. I just got a question about the Giants. In your years of experience, have you ever seen, how the San Francisco Giants were once the New York Giants? Has there ever been either a franchise to franchise or maybe even player to player get together when San Francisco comes to New York? Like, do they ever say hi? Maybe, I don't know, go out to dinner or something?
I don't know what are you talking about?
Is there ever any interaction when the San Francisco Giants come to New York or vice versa?
The San Francisco Giants come to New York and do what?
Have a game.
They play against the Mets, and what do you want to happen now?
Do the New York Giants ever reach out to them, either the players or the franchises?
The football Giants?
Yeah, the football Giants.
Well, what is the connection between the San Francisco Giants and the football Giants?
Well, they used to be in New York, and they got the same name.
Yeah.
But they have nothing to do with each other. There's no connection. They have different ownership. There's no connection between the two teams. I mean, there's no connection in any way between the two teams. They have no relationship. Do you think because they're Giants are like brothers or something? That might be the weirdest question I got in a long time. I mean, that might, and I think that's an honest question. That might be the strangest question I got in a really long time.
And I want to give the big man a little love here because then he kind of regroups, and then he goes off on a vintage little runner here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they have the giant picnic. They hold it over in Totowa, I think it is. Totowa! And then they have the giant relay race and the giant raffle. And then they all get together for the giant breakfast the next morning, and then they go their separate ways. It is true. It's a July weekend every year when it happens. Yeah, and then the Rangers in Texas and the New York Rangers have the same thing. They meet usually in Abilene and have that in August every year. Lundqvist is particularly close to Yu Darvish. As a matter of fact, there's a kinship there between the two of them. Here's the McMahon.
Here's the McMahon.
Totowa. Oh, man.
Where's Toto in relation to where you live?
Probably about 25 minutes away, which that's what makes it really funny. Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Season finale, Heed the Call, Season 1. Here we go.
Hey, heed the call. This is Kyle. I just want to shout out to Dan, Connor, Jordan, Michael, Justin, all the guys. Been a listener since 2014. Just wanted to ask if you guys have any advice on how to remain a fan of a perpetually mediocre team, like the Cowboys. I'm 31 years old, and I've never seen the Cowboys win a division playoff game. Should I just go the Rob Lowe route and wear an NFL logo hat and stop supporting ineptitude? Just curious on your guys' thoughts. Love the show. Keep on heeding the call.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, like I support a bad team, and that just actually leads to a lot of crippling self-doubt and obviously a lot of pain and denial and all that stuff. But in the case of fandom of a Cowboys fan, to be specific, and that really, I thought that really crystallized it, what Kyle said there, that he's 31, which would mean he was born in 1994, right? He has never seen, well, that wouldn't be right, because they won the Super Bowl, but he was a toddler or whatever. But like, he has never, as a fan, seen them even win so much as a divisional round game. It's tough. I don't know what you do other than do what you have to do as a fan and try to stay optimistic and hope that this is the year, and be grateful that you're not a fan of the true losers.
Yeah.
Like me and Mark, for instance.
I mean, this is what's his name?
His name is Kyle.
Kyle, first of all, this is your fault for picking the team that was in the Super Bowl all those years and thinking like, oh, Emmitt Smith's going to be around forever and Troy Aikman. Like, this is partially your problem. And what I would ask is, this is so terrible for you that between 2021 and 2023, you won 12 games 3 years in a row. You had some of the best players in the NFL. You've won at least double-digit games 6 times since 2014, and this is not enough for you somehow? I don't understand. This like, it's a button pusher for me, because like, what do you want from life, from the world? Like, what does sports owe you that it hasn't given you? Like a Super Bowl? And then what? What happens the next day in Kyle's house? I don't understand the need for this, you know?
Well, now you're the grizzled sports writer move. Like, nothing matters really. How does it change your life? Like, I can't get with you on that.
Playoffs matter. Like, I still think about when when we played that clip from Mike Francesa. The Orioles were 12 games up in the division back then. That was 2014. That was the year that my wife and I fell in love. It was like our 4th date. We went to Camden Yards to watch them beat the Devil Rays. I remember everything about that season. I remember David Simon from The Wire writing an essay about it for Sports Illustrated. I have that. That's in my little memory book, and that's a very special thing. That's enough for me. I don't need to do this performative thing where it's like, oh, we have all these awesome players and we got knocked out in the playoffs again. You were in the playoffs. Like, that's good.
All right. So, okay. So you're actually not the right person for this particular thing. I am. Let me tell you, because forget about the Jets. The Jets are horrible. Okay. But like the Cowboys, we'll use more of an apples to apples, the Cowboys to say the Yankees. Now you're a Yankees fan. What could a Yankees fan complain about? We haven't had a losing season since 1992.
Holy shit.
We spend money. We have a contender almost every year, and when we don't have a contender, when we have an off season, we go out and we get CeCe Sabathia, or we go out and we get Juan Soto. Like, the team is always in the mix. So yes, I will never, as a fan of the Yankees, say like, oh, you should feel sorry for us. But there is an interesting little wrinkle to fandom, and Packers fans are in the same place, because I could tell you this because when I was writing and talking about the pain rankings, ranking the most pain franchises, Packers fans would always be like, what about us? I know we're not losers, but to get year after year, to get your hopes up that this is the year, and then to get smacked down every year, it's not as miserable an experience and painful as the not having hope, because as I've said many times,
yes,
and this is where the Jets have failed and the Orioles have become this type of team as well. When they take away hope, it's the one thing that as an organization you owe your fans, is to give them hope. But there is really a frustration to being that team that's good but can't get over the hump, not just for a year or 2 years or 3 years, but many years. And it starts to feel like you're the Sisyphus, you're putting the rock up and then it just knocks you down again. And nobody feels bad for the Packers fan or the Cowboys fan, or certainly not the Yankees fan, but there is a frustration to that type of experience as well. And I think I see it. You are seeing Cowboys fans, but just know we can't really talk about it in mixed company because it's going to piss people off, okay?
I would say this, and this is from a meta 30,000-foot view. I've dealt with every fan base in the NFL. Enjoy that window of time where you're kind of almost there, because every fan life cycle is hopeless and miserable, and then, wow, we're spunky and we got a chance. Oh, we almost made it. And to me, that's peak fandom, right? Because once you cross the Rubicon into giant Patriots asshole, or Seahawks post Legion of Boom asshole, or Carolina Panthers fans 15-1 season asshole.
Hey, don't lose your fight. You got to include the Eagles fans on that one. Go ahead. Don't be afraid. I know you're thinking it.
I don't have to do anything I don't want to do.
He's thinking it. He's just afraid to say it now.
No, I think Eagles fans have it right. But a lot of Eagles fans were always assholes, right? Regardless of whether the team was good or bad. All these other fan bases become assholes because they're successful, and I think that's a different thing. Enjoy it. Enjoy not being an asshole.
100% agree with you, Connor. I went on a rant a couple months ago or something about how toxic ring culture has become, where it's like championship or bust. And I get it. Like, going into a season, there's always going to be a handful of teams who are on championship or bust. But if that's your experience as a fan, you are missing out on basically what you said, Connor, that there are a lot of good times, good moments and memories you can make without winning the championship of whatever sport you root for.
Good job, guys. Hey, Bills fans, I see you.
No. Oh, my God.
I see you. No, this doesn't involve you guys anymore. Bills fans, I see you. I understand where you're coming from.
Stop it.
I know there's challenges as well to that. Packers fans, I see you. Cowboys fans.
Vikings fans. Oof.
Vikings fans.
Oh, yeah. It's so terrible.
You're seen, and you're safe here. All right, next.
Hello, HTC crew. This is Ted calling in from New Hampshire. I got a question for Tugboat himself. You're a fan of a loser team. If you were to start over, do it all again, pick from scratch, going back to your childhood, what of any team in the NFL would you like to grow up as a fan of? All right, Tugboat, looking forward to the show.
Thank you, Ted. There's not enough Teds anymore. We need more Teds. Name your kids Theodore. Make them Teds. Make Ted great again. That one's easy for me. The Giants. I would have been a Giants fan. And it doesn't mean, like, don't read into that thinking that I secretly root for the Giants or any of that shit, because I have a lot of ill will towards the Giants because I've had the front row seat for a lot of glory. But I came very close to being a traditional New York fan in terms of finding my alley, which would have been Yankees, Giants, Knicks, Rangers. But somehow through my dad, the Jets got in the mix and really messed up the formula. But the Giants fandom is frustrating. And again, Giants fans are very frustrated about the past decade or so. That I have less sympathy for, because it's like, relax. You've won rings periodically since '86, and you could deal with down cycles because ultimately the organization seems to be run well overall during this time, and you always find your way. That would have been the Giants fandom. If you want to talk about like a fandom that is the most, and Giants fans are going to scream about this because they think they've really been going through it the last few years, and they kind of have. But like, you want to talk about what's the best for your mental health football fandom out there, you can make a case for the Giants as that organization, that you're in good hands. You could, there are a couple others. Maybe we could talk about that, like the Steelers fans, you're in good hands. Packers fans, you're in good hands. But the Giants fans there's always been a payoff to these droughts and these dark periods. And I think, unless ownership is losing the plot, there will be a payoff again down the road. So, yes, that would be my answer to that. Thank you, Ted. What do you think, Connor?
That's a great question. And oddly, I would have because growing up in Northeast PA, it was kind of Eagles, Steelers were options, but I didn't really realize, as much as I'd listened to WFAN and was in that culture because we got it locally there, I probably wish I had been a Jets fan. And the reason that I say that is because I'm uniquely obsessed with regime changes and buying in to different things. And I think that the Jets would have offered a lot of that for me over time. Like, I think I would have really liked going the Eric Mangini route and then going the Rex Ryan route and then going the Todd Bowles route. I think I really would have liked kind of going through that ebb and flow before it eventually got aggravating for me.
You think that in this alternate sliding doors reality, you could have tucked yourself into the Adam Gase era?
Oh, I did, just covering the NFL. Yeah, I 600% could have. I still think, and this is an insane take probably for a lot of you out there, but if Mike McCagnon wasn't the GM, I think that Adam Gase would still be the head coach of the Jets.
That's a hot take. You're also a big Chip Kelly guy. You got a soft place in your heart for like geniuses of the turn of the decade.
Maybe, yeah.
Offensive gurus of like 2008 is kind of like your ballywick.
Yeah, it's like that's my alt rock period. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right, what else we got?
Hey, yo, second-time caller, long-time listener, second-time caller because I just called and absolutely biffed my voicemail, so I'm going to give this one a shot again, try to make it quick and easy. On the first day of every single NFL season, I create an Excel sheet that essentially predicts the entire season. I go through every single matchup. I even go through the playoffs. I'm just kind of curious, is this psychotic? Is this something you guys are interested in doing? It takes me about 2.5 hours. I got like 3 to 4 of my friends in it. There's money on the line now. It's a good time, but I just don't know if this is something that I created in a COVID stupor or if it's actually something that would be a lot of fun for maybe you guys and or some of the listeners. All right, I know Justin wants me to cut this off, so we'll do. Thank you very much. Love the show. All right, bye.
Connor, you could take this one.
Yeah, maybe he got the idea from reading Sports Illustrated because we do that every year. It's fun. I like it. Predicting every game is the ultimate way to project an upcoming NFL season because it's the only way to truly put your cojones on the line. And I think that it erases a major shortcoming in our business where there's a lot of shows and people and podcasts who get stuff clipped for social media and they'll just go through every team and talk about how they love every team. Like, it might be surprising this year, like the Panthers, and they don't mean that, but if the Panthers are good, they'll tweet it 8 weeks later and look like there's some sort of a savant. I have to bang some team in that because we only have 272 wins to play with. I have to take it to somebody. And so I think that is the fairest and the only real way to do this.
Well said. I like that. It can't make everybody have a good year. Wouldn't make sense.
Nope.
It's got to be the other side of it. All right, next.
Hi, Dan. It's Elise, Justin's mom. Hey, just wanted to give you a personal invitation to the lake house.
Oh!
Hope you can make it, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Oh!
Party Elise has invited moi to the lake house.
What the f***?
I will watch my speed. I did not hear an invite for Connor. Did not.
Right back down the totem pole again.
I posted a photo on Instagram driving the boat on the lake this past weekend, and maybe Party Elise saw that, and she said, that he's got lake house energy to him, big lake energy, and you do not. Maybe
lost in this conversation is I'm the only one who currently lives in a lake house. I live in a lake house every day, but it's fine.
Wait, you live full time at a lake house?
Yes.
We're lousy with lake houses. We got lake houses everywhere on this show. Well, maybe you can get out on a little rowboat or some kind, show your lake house bona fides to Justin's mom, and you'll end up at the lake house too.
I'm gonna have to after this. I was flying high with.
This
is a victory in the Elise universe.
Yeah,
tough.
Yeah. When you get married, Justin, next year, come in for the wedding, right? Are we? Mm-hmm. Is there going to be an element where we might get a lake house invite? Like, is it going to be separate different areas of Texas? It's a very large state.
Yeah, define we. Like you.
Well, I'm married. I think, is my wife invited? Did I get a +1?
So, your wife's invited to the wedding. So actually, Jessica's parents are going to come to America and meet my parents for the very first time.
America!
During the wedding week, and after the wedding, we are going to take her parents to the lake so that they're big outdoors people, so that they get to experience it. But I do think that's going to be like a smaller, intimate group of Gray Verbalabio.
Doesn't sound like I'm getting the wedding weekend invite to the lake house, but there is an invite now officially out there for me, not for Mark, and definitely not for Connor.
Jesus. If you want to come 4th of July, we always blow it out big time. So that's, the end of this week.
Oh, I bet.
If you can make quick plans.
Come on down
there.
We celebrate the stars and stripes at the lake house. America, love it or leave it. Oh. Okay. Next.
Oh, sorry. Hello, Dan, Connor, and Justin. I am Sarah, one of your dozens of female listeners. And I would just like to start off by saying I think you are all looking cute today. Complimentary. My question is about going back, kind of looking back at the 2024 season. I'm curious if you guys could run it back with one major change and see what happened. What would that change be? For example, I would love to see the season if the Raiders had gotten Michael Penix Jr. and somehow also Brock Bowers. I would just be obsessed with seeing how that would change the entire season, and I think it's kind of interesting to think about that as a way of looking ahead to next season. So I'll take my answer off there.
Good question, Sarah. There are dozens of them. They're out there. We just heard 2 in a row. The one that came to mind for me, Connor, and this is kind of forgotten, but how close, and I know this is going to be seeming very on brand for a certain segment of our audience and predictable, but how close the Eagles came to getting knocked out of the playoffs by the Los Angeles Rams. And can you play it, Justin? This completion from Matthew Stafford to Puka Nacua, 1.5 minutes to play, fourth quarter, Eagles holding on for dear life, 6-point lead, and Nacua deep down the right sideline from Stafford comes down. They are 1st and 10 at the 22-yard line with 1:25 to play. And you give the Eagles a lot of credit, as you must, because at that point they stiffened up on defense. The Rams did not punch it in, obviously, and then the Eagles killed everybody else in the playoffs. But it's not that necessarily I wanted to see, but it's just one of those, maybe, it was one of those sliding doors moments, what would have happened. Because the thing I said about the Eagles that kind of got twisted a little bit was that I thought that there was a possibility that they were riding high with Sirianni, but if something went wrong in the playoffs, I felt like that was a locker room that could have really curdled very quickly and gone sour. And Sirianni, it's like it could have changed everything. Sirianni could be out of a job. I know it sounds crazy, but if they don't get that stand at home in the first round of the playoffs there, it could have changed everything. It didn't happen. But that is a crazy moment to the season that doesn't get a lot of talk, because now when people look back, Connor, at that Eagles playoff run, everyone just remembers them killing everybody in their way.
Right.
And they were beating the Rams up pretty good early in that game. Saquon had 2 long touchdowns in that game, but they almost got picked off in that game.
That's a great point, because it exposes the postseason fallacy, where then we cement everybody as a genius and they were the right team to do this, when really it's just a couple of plays that go one way or the other. I would, if I were to change one thing about last season, I would have just had Tyreek Stevens looking at the fucking ball during the Commanders' Hail Mary, because I think that this is a massive alternate universe where the Bears are 4-2. They're coming off their bye week. If they just knock that ball down, they're 5-2. We don't know what becomes of the Commanders, but the Chicago Bears lost like 8 straight games after that. Matt Eberflus got fired. Caleb Williams ends up going off the rails. They spend all this money to lure Ben Johnson away. What if none of that happens? What if Eberflus wins enough games to get to like 8 and 9, and you think things are going to, maybe you just change offensive coordinators? Now maybe Ben Johnson's in Jacksonville, or maybe Ben Johnson's in Vegas, and then where's Pete Carroll and all this? And, there's so many kind of alternate universe scenarios that come with that one play that is one of my favorite what if moments from last season. Probably the what if moment. I mean, are we even talking about the Commanders as the Commanders,
I think the Bears, as crazy as it seems, dodged a bullet, though. The worst thing that could have happened was that Eberflus somehow holds on to that job. And I just felt like if that... I felt like that team was going to collapse one way or the other. That obviously created the true collapse of the team. But, I think they ended up in a good place for the organization going into this year. But, yes, that changed everything around them. All right. Let's roll.
Hi, this is Morten from Denmark. So back in the day, I went into couples therapy with my wife, and I found out that I was the problem and couldn't really show my emotions. So I had to work on that. And then one day on my way to work, I pulled over because I cried, learning that Lakeisha and Chris Wrestling was having a baby boy.
Oh.
So my question is, to what extent did you know that this was the effect that you could have on people when you set out to do a football podcast with a touch of mirth? Thanks for the best podcast ever, and never miss a show. Bye-bye.
Oh, Martin.
Wow.
Man, in therapy with the wife, realizes he's the problem. I don't know, he was unable to process emotions, but the Wes Lakeisha pregnancy announcement did it. That's quite touching. And I remember that. I remember when that happened, and I remember what a great moment that was in the studio. It was at the old studio in Culver City, and that is the all the sadness around what would end up happening to Wes, and the fate, the cards that were dealt to Wes, getting sick the second time, because that was in between. Wes got cancer, got better, got married, had Link, and then got sick again, and then we lost him. But Link is the Link. He is the link to Chris, and he is of all the ugliness and shittiness of that 2020, as we were losing Chris, knowing that Link was able to, in that short window they had, Lakeisha and Chris, where they could be happy and healthy together, that they were able to bring Link into the world was kind of a miracle. And I think we're going to see Link's going to come stay with us and Lakeisha this summer, and seeing where Link is now as he gets older. And seeing how similar he is to Chris in looks and even the way he moves and walks is it's an amazing thing. And to what Martin said, no, we didn't think any of that stuff could ever happen doing the football show. But I think what I'm proud of, both what we did at ATN and what we're doing here at Heed the Call, is that this is real, and it's real friendship, and it's real conversations, and it's not just popping the hood on analytics and digging in on football. It's about our lives and who we are as people, and that stuff comes out, and the audience reacts to it, because we're all one here, So very nice, nice. I hope Martin from Denmark and his wife are in a good place now.
Sure, yeah. That was kind of my follow-up thought there.
Yeah.
Just to put a button on it on my end, I always felt like and still feel like a fan of the show that just gets to come on sometimes. And so I view it from a lens of like, I feel like I'm the luckiest ATN fan or Heed the Call fan that there is, because the hosts of the show have had such an amazing impact on my life, but that I actually get to come and to do it. So for me, I'm almost looking at it more from Martin's side, where I agree with him. There's a lot of these big moments in my life that I associate with episodes that I wasn't even on, and episodes that I was on. And so it's a pretty spectacular thing, you know?
We grew up like as men, you could say, like on the show in our 30s. Like some listener sent in something to me or tweeted me like, oh, here's a link to when you announced like that you and your wife were having your second child. I was like, wow, like that's all there. Like if I choose to go back and listen, like getting engaged, married, babies, the loss of Chris and you know, all that, like there's a lot of life that has been lived on the show for all of us. And yeah. Anyway, what else, Justin?
Hi, this is Morten from Denmark again. I just wanted to let you know that I'm still together with my wife today, and I will be till the end of time.
Oh, yes!
Bye-bye.
Yes!
Yeah!
Till the end of time.
Hell yeah! Show your emotions, Martin.
Hi, Danny and Connor. This is Nick. I'm from Long Island, New York. I love the show. Danny, I'm a fellow New York Jets sufferer here. I was just wondering, what do you think of Fields as a starting quarterback next year? Do you have a stat line that you'd be comfortable with for him? Thanks, fellas. Take care.
I mean, I know this isn't the case for everyone, but as someone that is a New York transplant in California, that was like a warm blanket being wrapped around me. Just hearing Nick from Long Island. Yeah, we could be quick on this one, but like Justin Fields to me was a very sensible move for where the Jets are as a team in transition after a failed experiment that lasted 2 years with Aaron Rodgers and everything that went around that. I have optimism that he could be productive. I'm not expecting him to become a superstar, but I would. This is what I would sign up for, Connor, and tell me if this is crazy. Okay, I can see, and like 3,500 yards if he stays healthy. 21 to 23 touchdown passes, 800 yards rushing, 6 or 7 touchdowns on the ground. I would take that season, and I feel like that would bring the Jets' offense into a place of competitiveness. So am I expecting too much from Justin Fields? Can he deliver that type of that, like kind of a good but not great dual threat quarterback season?
So 3,500 yards would be about 1,000 more than his career high. And I'm not saying that that's impossible. I'm just saying because he hasn't.
Is that true? He's never had a 3,000 yard season?
He's at a 2,562 is his career high. However, there's not a lot of, what I think a 15 game season is his largest sample size. So you have to take that into account. I think my biggest thing, and I think that the way that the Jets are viewing this is as explosives. This is an offense that cares about explosives. Can you score a lot from 20 yards out? I don't really, would it be great to double your TD to int ratio, like 20 touchdowns, 10 picks? Yeah. Would it be great to maybe throw for 3,000 yards? Yeah. But I just think up the completion percentage, move the drives, and hit a couple explosives. That's what the Jets want out of their quarterback. And if Fields can deliver that, I think this is going to be a good team. Good enough.
God. We're due. We're so due, baby. All right, what's next?
Hey, Dan. This is Brian in Toledo, Ohio. I think of you as like the official ombudsman of Hard Knocks. I have a 10-year-old son who is football crazy right now, and I wonder what is the best season of Hard Knocks for a 10-year-old to watch. Any thoughts on that? Thanks. Hi, New York.
A little bit of a trick question there because how old is the son? You say 10?
He's 10. Yeah.
It's funny because the best seasons of Hard Knocks are not the modern era when it's been sanitized by the NFL, but the ones where it was pretty raw and the language was really salty, a lot of F-bombs being thrown around, and yeah, I think the Jets Hard Knocks season, the first one, 2010, was really entertaining. I really enjoyed the Browns Hard Knocks season that occurred about 5 or so years ago, just because of that was one of the last years where you really NFL Films was allowed to really take you behind the curtain, even if it didn't look great for the team. And there were some great storylines there with young Baker and who's the line coach, Anthony Wiley.
Oh, Bob Wiley.
Bob Wiley.
Good friend. Good friend.
A lot of characters on that team. Those are two seasons that stand out to me. How about you, Connor?
I think that the two best seasons of all time are the 2001 Ravens. That season is unstoppable. That's what ignited the entire franchise. I think as long as you have your finger on the beat button, like Justin does so well in this, you'll be able to get your son through that. And that might actually ignite his love of football. And the part that I loved about football the best, right, which is when you're hanging out in camp and doing crazy shit with one another. And then the Jets won just because of the intrigue. We had the chase for Revis. We had the meeting at the Roscoe Diner. There were so many great little moments that unfolded there. Possibly a Conor Orr appearance there in the background somewhere. So
hello. Bonus.
Yeah, possibly.
Also, Rex somewhere? At the apex of his powers as having charisma and being quotable, and let's go get a damn snack and all that. So yeah, if you feel comfortable with your son hearing some language that he's probably already hearing in school at this point anyway, let it rip. What else we got? A couple more.
Hey fellas, Ryan here from St. Paul, Minnesota. I was just wondering, does Andy Dalton know about the Dalton line? Let's hear your thoughts. Thanks, guys. You're the best.
Oh, that's interesting, Ryan. I don't think Andy Dalton knows about the Dalton line, but you never know. But I do think, this is what I do think. This gets me thinking about less about Andy Dalton's knowledge of this podcast or one of our segments, and more like that, are you the Dalton line at your own job?
Ooh.
Like, you ever think about that? Like, where do you fit in within at your company? Are you on the right side of the Dalton line? And if you are, great. And if you're not, head on a swivel. But what if you are the prime meridian?
Oh.
So maybe like that's more almost like I want the audience to just maybe even hit pause and just think about where you sit on your own Dalton line. I would think if Andy Dalton ever heard this, he would find it to be patently ridiculous, but maybe if he was able to reflect a little bit, it would strike him as like maybe he could reflect on his career and what he achieved. And but I almost rather he doesn't know about it.
I think Andy Dalton absolutely knows about the Dalton line. And I think that, like most people, probably reads a lot of his comments, this has probably come across his radar at one point or another, and he is just very practiced in saying that he doesn't read or see any of this kind of stuff. That would be my guess.
All right. Interesting. Where do you fall on the Dalton scale? All right. Next.
Hey, Dan and Connor. It's Brian from the Carolinas. Why haven't any NFL teams put a really tall guy on their team? You know, your Yao Mings, your Manu Bowles, your Taco Falls. I get that these guys would be very limited in many ways. But you need a short first down, just a soft, short pass to Yao Ming for the first. The other team's kicking a field goal? Nope. George Murison to block the kick. We all want this to happen. Why hasn't it happened? Which NFL coach could make our dreams come true? Love the show. Join the Patreon.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. Nice, Brian. This is a great one, Brian, from the Carolinas. And I think part of the reason you don't see it is because these teams are they take the draft process so seriously that they would never be able to make such a flippant move. And I think it's done out of fear. It's like the guy they sign off the street after the draft, who they have as maybe if it works out, he's a gunner on special teams, or maybe he's like the fifth string cornerback. And they just have him as like a developmental guy that someone in the building vouched for and likes a lot. But the chances of that type of player ever making a tangible impact in their team, it's like 1 in 1,000. And yet, if you we're talking about the guys that have like the thing, like the not gigantism, whatever it is, the pituitary gland thing that makes them gigantic, like Andre the Giant, Murison, those types, like the 7'7", 440 mountains of men. Why not stick them in front of the fucking place kicker with the game on the line? And there's nothing else you get out of him. Because what Brian also mentioned was put him in the red zone.
No.
I'm less interested in that because it takes a level of athleticism to get to the spot, even if it's like 3rd and goal, and then turn around. Then you got to catch the damn ball. But if we're talking just but putting somebody up almost like a tree in front of the kicker, I feel like that could make a difference more than just a flyer on some guy that you saw at the senior bowl or whatever. Go ahead.
I have actually a couple thoughts on this. The first is that this is a version of my favorite argument that I have with hockey fans. I hate hockey fans, and I always say, why wouldn't
more
you...
than Ohio? Like, who do you hate more? Hockey fans or the state of Ohio?
Worst.
Speaking of West, did you know that the Westling brothers both contacted me? Two of the Westling brothers contacted me, Phil and Nick, expressing disapproval and disappointment that you would be so anti-Ohio.
No.
Were they, born and raised and
Shit.
love the state of Ohio. And you said that the only reason, when we were talking about our speeding conversation, you said people speed in Ohio because they can't wait to get out of the state. I don't know if you had an official statement on that.
Man, talk about like the two people I wouldn't want to offend out of all this. I almost moved to Cincinnati. I had to try to talk my wife into moving to Cincinnati. I like Cincinnati very particularly, but Shadur Sanders isn't in Cincinnati, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to try to dance around that and just get to this, that I always said to hockey fans, why wouldn't you hire a morbidly obese person like Brandon Fraser in The Whale and stick him in goal because he engulfs the entire goal.
Cover the net.
Yeah, so you can't. And then they would talk about Henrik Lundqvist or whoever gives a shit, and then I lost interest in the conversation. But here's why. There's a couple of reasons why, right? Like, let's say you sent George Mirasan or Yao Ming out for a pass. They're 7'7" tall. They don't really have a vertical, and so they can probably get up to like 8 feet tall. Patrick Surtain is 6 feet tall and has like a 3.5 foot vertical. He would just jump in the air and spike it down, and the receiving end of it is null and void. Like, there's not going to really be an advantage there because your cornerbacks are so athletic. I think that the ultimate comp in that would be someone like Kyle Pitts, who's 6'8" and was attractive because of his height, but gets hit in the rib cage and in the hips so much that he struggled with injuries throughout his career. And so I think that's another reason why you don't see a lot of tall people in the NFL. But an interesting question.
Give it a try. Like, what's the worst that can hurt? You got a giant person, a little work. You get him an NFL pension potentially, or a piece of it. Come on, make it happen. All right, one more. By the way, it says here, I thought that you were generous there. It says Kyle Pitts is 6'6". Did you say 6'8"?
He was closer to 6'8".
That's like when they said Hulk Hogan was 6'8", 303, but he was really like 6'6", 260.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Last call. I like the idea, because this is like a supersized episode of Heed the Call to end the season, that we also have to beat it every year and make it longer and make sure that Mark is on the episode next year, so he has to sit through the whole thing. And if you've made it this far into this episode, thank you. You guys are the best, and we love you. Okay, last caller.
Hey, guys. This is Paul from Florida. Longtime listener, huge fan of Dan, Justin, all the guys. I've got an off-season question for you. Imagine a future in which one of your children marries the child of a current NFL head coach. Which NFL head coach would you choose to be your child's future father-in-law, and why? Thanks.
Okay.
There's only one answer to this question.
Someone came to mind to me immediately. I want to hear who you have.
It's Pete Carroll. Period.
That's a good one.
That's it. Like, there's no, like, to me, I can argue my way out of any other answer there. I think it's Pete Carroll.
That's a really safe, strong
period
answer. I would not involve Carroll because, as many listeners know, my mom has long had a crush on Pete Carroll, dating back to 1994 and his year as the Jets head coach. So I feel like out of respect for my dad, I wouldn't want to bring Carroll into the picture. Like it's just too much. It's like my parents are celebrating their 50th anniversary. They just did, and we're going on a trip to celebrate that. And what kind of son would I be? The firstborn son to bring Pete Carroll into the structure via a marriage of a hypothetical daughter or whatever. Now, I want to say the person that came to my mind, that's a great answer. For personal reasons, I can't bring Pete in. Mike McDaniel, I feel like is just somebody I'd like to have around at the barbecues. I'd like to play cornhole with Mike McDaniel. I'd like to chop it up. I'd love to get, have a few, well, he doesn't drink anymore, but I'd like to hang out late night and maybe he gets a little high. I could see him smoking a little bit and I'm having a Tito's soda with a slice of orange and we just watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like we just watch the whole thing and he has takes and he's interesting and he's funny. And I think he's a good provider for my hypothetical daughter as well. So I'm going to say Mike McDaniel.
Man.
Just the first thing that came to mind. I don't know why. Yeah, Mike flashed into my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think about what you want from a father-in-law, and I'm blessed in that department. And but Pete Carroll, he brings a lot of that to the table. Very encouraging. So as a son, if your kid marries Pete Carroll's daughter, whatever, let's say you lose your job or, things get a little tight, he's always going to be motivational. He's not going to make you feel like an asshole because you're not earning money and bringing something to the table. I think has a sick pad in Hawaii, which would kind of be like a built-in kind of free vacation thing with the kids. You could probably get out there. He might pop for the plane tickets, that kind of thing. So I think that there's just a lot there. And just what he brings to the room vibe wise. Whereas McDaniel, I feel like, and I might get in trouble saying this because I love Mike McDaniel, but I feel like is probably a net takeaway when you're entering a room, whereas Pete Carroll is a net add, where if you get all different kind of personality types together in a room, Pete Carroll's going to win that room, whereas McDaniel's probably going to win like 2 people, and then he's probably going to lose like 6 people. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think,
but I don't mind that ratio. I want a guy who's going to mix things up. Now, one thing that I might have gotten wrong with this, for some reason, I was imagining a scenario where my child is marrying the coach himself, but we're saying this is the offspring of the coach.
Of the coach. Yes.
That's why I was really concerned about the Pete Carroll situation. But that makes more sense also.
Right. So think about it this way. Perfect example, right? Big moment for your in-laws are like, or your kid's father, whatever, your son's mother-in-law, father-in-law.
Yes.
Wedding speeches, engagement speeches. Do you trust McDaniel in that spot to bring it home and to not really just rub, again, like 60% of the room the wrong way when you fucking know Pete Carroll is going to bring that house down? He's going to look hot. He's going to be tan. Like the whole thing's just.
I'm telling you, I'm not pushing back on Carroll. Yeah. I think it's a great choice.
Yeah,
I don't mind having McDaniel get up there and get a little bit out of pocket, and then later we're belly up at the bar. He orders a seltzer. He's not a drinker anymore. And I'm saying to him, man, I know some people aren't happy with you right now, but I just want to let you know I'm really happy that we're family now, and I enjoyed that. And don't change who you are. Don't ever change. Just be you, because I find you entertaining. I find you to be an interesting person, and the one thing this family really is short on are truly interesting people.
All right.
Thank you for being you, Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
I fucking love you, Mike McDaniel. You are, who is he in this scenario? What is he to me? He's my son, one of my sons marry his daughter. What is our connection? Do we have a title together?
Just your kids' in-laws. Is there like a term for that? Is what you're asking?
I don't know. I guess not. But whatever that is, if there's a term out there, I'm happy that Mike, we're all under this. We're in the same family tree now.
Okay.
It's not forget about the Shanahan tree that McDaniel's in. No. But now you're in the Hans's tree.
You bringing McDaniel into the fold is interesting because when he said that, like, every other coach that I'm just Rolodexing through my mind is an immediate no, because 99% of NFL head coaches are like ruthless, ladder climbing, emotional, or
Exactly.
like slogan saying, fire
or
breathing
kind
monsters.
of potentially like alpha bullies, or like they shake your hand too hard to show that they're in control. And I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that with Pete either, which again is why it's a great call. Pete's going to be. I've met Pete Carroll. He's a very real man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I don't have to worry about it either. I don't have to worry about the overly firm, look at me, I'm the true man handshake, which is one of my least favorite moves that anyone does. I am very comfortable as a man around other men, and I will give you a nice handshake, but I'm not trying to win any fucking competition. And when you do that, Mike Vrabel, for example, absolutely Vrabel does that as an example. To me, that's a la Ravio Magnifico. When I shake hands with Mike McDaniel, it's going to be a wet noodle. And I'll say, you know what? I don't take that as you being less of a man. That's a man that has nothing to prove.
You're going to give him one of these, like the 18th century king fingers, like, hello.
Like, yeah. I'm going to take Mike by the hand, and I'm going to feel it like it's going to be like, to play a pasta in my hands. And I won't judge him for it. All right. Yes, Justin.
Don't say Brian Callahan.
According to Wiktionary, the relationship between you and your child's in-laws is best described as co-parents-in-law.
Stupid. No. I dismissed that out of hand. But thank you, Justin. Thank you, Justin, for everything. This first season. You are an MVP. There's nobody better in the business of producing a sports
Justin
podcast.
has been an asset to us, man.
Absolutely, Mike Tomlin. You are 100% correct. So thank you to Justin. Connor, you are the man, buddy. You are the breakout star of season 1, and it's fitting that you are finishing out this season with me and with us and the audience, and the audience appreciates you too. Thank you very much, and yes, thank you to Jordan Rodrigue and Michael Sean Dugar who did and have done so much great work for this show. Jordan was just on the show last week, and it was great to have her on. We're going to have them on going forward in season 2 of Heed the Call, and of course to the great Mark Sessler, who's out there somewhere, and going on this adventure with Mark as my partner in crime has been always exciting and not always predictable. There are twists and turns, but Mark and I are very lucky to have each other, and very appreciative of Mark, and I can't wait till he gets back and training camp arrives for another year of coverage of professional football here. Heed the Call. So with that said, everyone, enjoy these next few weeks of summertime, and we'll be back as training camp gets underway across the country, and until then, do what you must. Heed the call.